Monday, so it's knife maintenance day. We're going to do a little test here today. I have this Vosteed that I've been carrying, and I've cut a lot of cardboard with it now. There's a lot of sticky stuff on this blade. We've been getting in a lot of packages at work, new equipment for the new school year, and I've had to open a lot and cut up a lot of boxes. So this won't come clean any more than this. So we're going to see how this knife pivot lube works on cleaning a blade that's really dirty. I'm just going to put a drop on there. One more. Spread it around with my finger. Let it sit for just a minute. And we'll start wiping it off and see what happens. Getting out of frame, sorry about that. It's not easy to do, trying to look through the camera but also look at the knife at the same time to keep from slicing yourself wide open. So with not much effort at all, that is clean. Let's do the other side. I'll try and keep this in frame a little bit better. Let it soak for just a minute. And let's wipe it off. There we go, nice and clean. I've been amazed by how well this stuff cleans. And this pivot lube really is more of a pivot flush. It's an ultra lightweight, and what it's designed to do is if you have a new knife or you have a knife that got gunked up and got dirty, you can use this on the pivot, and if you work the knife blade, what it'll do is that the pressure from opening and closing the knife, it'll start to cause this lube to ooze out of every gap or every pore that's in the knife. For example, on the slip joint, it'll ooze out between both sides of the spring. On the back side of the knife, it'll just come out and you'll see all this black gunk coming out of the knife. So this is great stuff, not just for cleaning your blade, but for lubing and maintaining a pivot. Especially a slip joint that's pinned together, you can't take apart. So you need a way of cleaning out that pivot. Or even on a modern knife like this that you can take apart. Why take it apart when you don't have to? It's much easier to put a few drops of this on, work the blade back and forth a few times, let all the garbage ooze out, then go ahead and put your thicker pivot lube on. I will be coming out with a thicker pivot lube in the near future. Some of the ingredients that I use for it, the company I get it from is out of stock. They come in bulk, they come in 5-gallon buckets, so it may be a month or so before I can get the stuff that I need to make the lube again. So for now, I have the ultralight, and then after that you can use a heavy pivot lube of your choice, but I would highly recommend, if you go with this stuff, with my pivot lube and cleaner, later on when it's available, go with my heavy lube. This is one of the Queen Trappers in saw cut bone. So I like to open the blade up like that and then get a couple drops inside there. And then I don't open it up and snap it open all the way, because I have seen on occasion now that the oil will actually squirt out from the pressure there. So go easy when you, and just work the blade back and forth. And we'll put a little bit here on the inside. And I like to get it in each corner so some runs down in the pivot itself. Then just keep working the knife. A lot of times when these knives are new, they don't do a good job at the factory cleaning them out, especially for the cheap price that they sell these for. These are only $15 knives or something like that. There you can see that gunk coming out of the bottom, and it is no longer clear. So all that discoloration is the lube bringing garbage out from in that pivot. Keep working it a little more. This is already starting to feel a little bit less gritty. Some more garbage coming out. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll open the knife to where the spring sticks out, because there's oil and with garbage on that spring. And then that cleans it off. Alright, now let's go back and let's put some more in here again. I let it run down between the spring and the back of the blade. Then again, we'll open it up, flip it over, and on the top here, we'll put a little along each edge, like I said before, so it runs down in the pivot itself. Then we'll continue to work the knife. This is the process that I go through with all new slip joints. To clean out the pivots before I start using it. This is also good to do after you do a pretty serious sharpening on a knife, because you may get metal shavings, that real fine dust stuck inside there. And this stuff does a great job at flushing it out. You saw how it cut the sticky residue from cutting cardboard. Well, it does the same thing for all the gunk that builds up inside the pivot. And what I'll do is I'll keep going with this until I start to get clear oil coming out of here. This knife is already feeling a lot smoother than it was. You can see there's some oil on there, and there's starting to get less crud. There's still a little bit of crud. Now you also want to take a look inside here, and you may want to wipe off everything. Even get down inside here with something like a Q-tip, or I'll use a thin sliver of wood or a real fine screwdriver and a piece of cotton cloth, and get down there and wipe some of this out. Right now I'll just do the best that I can. Get that rag down in there. Try and get some of that crud out. And then I think I'll do this one more time. A little bit down in there. And for each side of the pivot. Now there's some clean oil coming out. There's still just a little bit of garbage, but that's probably got 95% of everything that was in there. So at this point, I'll probably stop and I'll call it good. Some more will come out as I use the knife. And once enough of the light oil squeezes out, I'll go back and I'll put heavy oil in here. So, we enjoy this as a great little cleaner and pivot lube. I'm going to call this more of a knife flush, but it is an actual lube. The thing that happens with slip joints, it happens with all knives, but especially slip joints, because you have that spring pressure. You're putting a lot of pressure against the mating surfaces, and when you have that pressure on different surfaces, it squeezes out any lubricant that's in between. So slip joints are tough to keep lubricated, as it oozes out over time. So the thicker the lubricant, the better. Like I've used KPL Heavy, and I also used one that's called Carbon Honey, and they're both really thick and they work pretty good. They stay in longer than other lubes, but they still get squeezed out too. So I will be coming out with my heavy version of this lube. So you would use this to flush it and then use the heavy to lubricate your knife. Now for surfaces that are under load, grease is better than any kind of oil, even a thick heavy oil. Grease is designed to stay put and not get squeezed out. It stays where the lubrication is needed. But how do you get grease down in the pivot that you can't take apart? In the modern knife that you can disassemble, you could put a very light film of grease between the pieces and the washers and stuff as you put the knife back together. We don't have that option with our traditionals. So a good heavy lube is the next best option. Now I was going to wait until I got all the ingredients in for the heavy lube, but this stuff works so good at flushing out pivots and at cleaning blades off. I think I'm going to go ahead and list this now as a knife flush and lube. So this will be on my Etsy store. You could check in the description, or if you go to my channel page and you go on the About section, you'll see the links. So if you're interested in this, I'd encourage you to check it out. This has just been a phenomenal product to use. I've really enjoyed it. It makes taking care of knives simple and easy. We'll see you on the next one.